I'm Veronica Dudo. Tonight on EWTN News Nightly, message of forgiveness.
It revealed to me a great mercy from God in this tragedy.
We take a look at the faith-filled speech given by the widow of Charlie Kirk at his memorial service. On Capitol Hill, lawmakers are saying enough to Vladimir Putin, how they're hoping to fight back against the Russian leader. Hidden danger? Why the Trump administration is warning against the use of Tylenol. Plus, mercy and the law. Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito heads to Rome for the Jubilee of Justice, the one thing he says only God can do. These stories and more tonight.
From EWTN, the Global Catholic Network, this is EWTN News Nightly.
Thank you for being with us on the Feast of St. Thomas of Villanova. Our top story tonight. President Donald Trump calls Charlie Kirk a martyr for American freedom and an evangelist for American liberty. People packed into a stadium in Arizona for Kirk's memorial, which featured members of the Trump administration and Kirk's widow, who had a profound message for her husband's killer. White House correspondent Owen Jensen reports. Owen.
President Trump says Charlie Kirk's murder was an attack on our entire nation and an assault on our most sacred liberties and God-given rights.
Sounds of faith fill Charlie Kirk's memorial service, and while his widow weeps for him, she says she took comfort seeing his body, knowing that Charlie did not suffer.
I also saw on his lips the faintest smile. And that told me something important. It revealed to me a great mercy from God in this tragedy.
Erica Kirk says Charlie wanted to save young men, just like the one who took his life.
That man, that young man, I forgive him.
He did not hate his opponents. He wanted the best for them. That's where I disagreed with Charlie. I hate my opponent, and I don't want the best for them. I'm sorry. I am sorry, Erica. But now Erica can talk to me and the whole group, and maybe they can convince me that that's not right, but I can't stand my opponent.
President Trump also told the huge crowd,
he was assassinated because he lived bravely. He led boldly, and he argued brilliantly without apology.
President Trump's cabinet members traveled to Arizona for the memorial as well.
I just came from overseas, and every country I stopped, they gave us their condolences for his passing. Impactful. In just 31 years of life, he made a difference. He mattered, and he will matter now more than he ever has before.
Charlie waged war not with a weapon, but with a tent, a microphone, his mind, and the truth.
Vice President J.D. Vance says he used to be uncomfortable talking about his faith, but that changed with Charlie Kirk's death. He now speaks often about Jesus Christ.
Because Charlie believed that we were all children of God, he treated everyone with grace. And that is perhaps the enduring legacy of Charlie Kirk.
The suspected killer faces the death penalty if convicted. The FBI says it is committed to pursuing every lead, including the possibility of accomplices. At the White House, Owen Jensen, EWTN News Nightly.
The Trump administration is taking aim at one of the most popular medicines in America. The president says pregnant women in the U.S. should take Tylenol only to relieve high fevers. He says use of the drug during pregnancy could lead to autism. Some studies have shown a link, but experts say the findings are inconsistent and inconclusive. Is Russian President Vladimir Putin testing the United States and other NATO countries? Some on Capitol Hill think so and want to pass a bill to bring heavy sanctions on Russia, as well as the countries purchasing its oil. This comes as Russian forces violate the airspace of NATO countries. Capitol Hill correspondent Eric Rosales joins us with the latest. Eric.
Well, good evening, Veronica. Yes, Russia continues to cross over the red line of NATO countries. This weekend alone, Germany and Swedish jets had to scramble to intercept and track a Russian surveillance plane that was flying over the Baltic Sea. Their operation ended without incident, but this is in addition to repeated drone incursions in Poland, Romania, and Estonia. On Capitol Hill, U.S. lawmakers, well, they're putting the pressure on the White House to act.
There's no question Putin is testing our resolve by sending drones into Poland, by continuing his night after night slaughter of Ukrainians with his bombs and missiles. The test of the West is unfolding in real time.
Since April, co-author of the Russian sanctions bill, Senator Richard Blumenthal has been urging Republican Majority Leader John Thune to bring it to the floor for a vote. 85 senators have signed on to it, including Kevin Cramer, who wants to see more pressure from European allies.
Bringing NATO into it and putting a condition that includes NATO exercising the same things that we're wanting to exercise, I think is important, because he's using the leverage that not only works on Putin but would work on our NATO allies.
Leader Thune says he wants to move the bill in sync with the wishes of the White House. President Trump recently said he's, quote, looking at the sanctions bill very strongly. Key provisions of the proposal include 500% tariffs on imports from countries that buy Russian energy, targeting major consumers like China and India. It also broadens sanctions on Russia's financial institutions, state-owned entities, and specific individuals, and targets Russia's energy sector by sanctioning new projects such as Arctic liquefied natural gas. House lawmakers say, send it over. They're ready.
Vladimir Putin has said the greatest catastrophe of the 20th century was the collapse of the Soviet Union, and he would love to reconstruct the Russian Empire, and they've got to be stopped.
Hopefully we can get some de-escalation, but under the circumstances, the whole world needs to come together and put these sanctions on Russia so as we starve them, we strangle them.
Meanwhile, at the UN General Assembly in New York, the Ukrainian president will be working the sidelines. He plans several meetings with President Donald Trump as Russia continues to carry out aerial assaults. At the Capitol, Eric Rosales, EWTN News Nightly.
Tomorrow in New York City, the United Nations General Assembly will meet, marking 80 years since its creation. However, there won't be time for celebrating, as wars, hunger, and emergent technologies all demand urgent attention. So what will be the top priorities for world leaders at this year's United Nations gathering? Joining us now is Alex Tarasio, political strategist and pollster at Signal. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So world leaders are meeting at the UN during simultaneous wars in Gaza and Ukraine. How does this moment compare to other periods in global instability in the UN's 80-year history? And what might be accomplished this week?
Well, one thing that's already been accomplished for people who want to see peace in the Israel-Gaza conflict is that the UK, Canada, and Australia each announced that they would recognize Palestinian statehood. That's a pretty big deliverable. A lot of the pro-Palestinian voices out there are pretty happy today, although the conflict rages on. And whether this will actually change things, I don't think that most people believe that it will. Benjamin Netanyahu is expected to come on the General Assembly to give a speech that this won't change anything. He's already given out statements to that effect. And so when the United States isn't on board with ending the conflict, that's really fundamentally the main obstacle to having a solution there. And right now, the U.S. isn't seeing what it needs to see for that to end.
Now, in his first interview, Pope Leo XIV says that the UN has lost its ability to bring nations together. Do you agree? And what does that mean for the future of multilateral diplomacy?
I disagree insofar that I don't think the UN ever quite had the ability to do that. The United Nations is a forum for countries to gather that disagree. That's a good thing. It should do that. But its fundamental design is to not have action, because the Security Council is set up of rivals. United States, Russia, and China oppose each other on many, many different things. And so the default is inaction. It's still good to speak. It's still good to have conversation. But I only quibble with Pope Leo that we shouldn't have quite such lofty aspirations for the UN.
Now, switching gears a little bit, over 200 experts are demanding binding measures to regulate artificial intelligence. How realistic is it for world leaders to reach a consensus on such urgent technology issues?
I'm going to sound like a broken record here, but if the United States opposes it, and it absolutely will vociferously, the Trump administration, J.D. Vance, they've been on the record loudly saying that they oppose this kind of regulation, then there will definitely not be a consensus. And there shouldn't be, because the experts don't know what is best in artificial intelligence. They can't envision a world that we now live in where we can have reliable AI that didn't exist before. So I think it would be a real shame if this got regulated before we really got to see it actually exist.
Alex, thanks so much for your time today.
Thanks for having me on. Appreciate it.
We have a lot more still to come on EWTN News Nightly. Trial of the century. A Vatican cardinal fights back in court. His appeal now underway in Rome after a stunning embezzlement conviction. A new survey shows Gen Z workers are struggling to land good jobs. What's behind it? We'll discuss. The appeal hearing for a former Vatican official convicted in 2023 of embezzlement and abuse of office began today in Rome. In the so-called trial of the century, Cardinal Angelo Becciu was sentenced to 5 years and 6 months in prison after being found guilty of using Vatican money for a highly speculative real estate deal in London's Sloane Avenue. In the way that the deal was structured and restructured, the Holy See ended up losing more than $200 million. Cardinal Becciu claims prosecutors ignored key evidence. A major storm is churning in the Atlantic tonight. Hurricane Gabrielle has strengthened into a powerful Category 3 with winds hitting 120 miles per hour. The system is about 180 miles southeast of Bermuda. While it's expected to remain away from land, its impact will still be felt. Swells from Gabrielle are battering Bermuda and stretching up the U.S. coast from North Carolina to Canada's Atlantic coast. Forecasters say the swells are likely to cause life-threatening surf and rip currents. The Atlantic hurricane season ends November 30th. Gen Z employees are struggling to find good jobs, and now a new survey reveals some of the reasons why. In a survey of 1,000 18 to 30-year-olds, only 16% felt confident and capable at work, while 84% said something is holding them back. Gen Z also has less experience than previous generations. Only 15% had any kind of job before age 16. That's compared to 39% of those in Gen X who worked before age 16. Joining us now is the author of the survey, Lisa Miller, a consumer marketing expert who has more than 30 years experience working for some of the most well-known companies. Lisa, thanks so much for your research and for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
So in this, you found that many employers say Gen Z is not ready for the workplace. Why?
Well, there's a couple of things, and you hit a couple of them, is Gen Z today is so much less likely to have those early jobs. If you think back to the lawn mowing, babysitting, paper routes, those types of things just aren't happening today for Gen Z. So they're showing up to the workforce without some of those fundamental people skills and things like that. But I think one of the misnomers is that it's all because of AI and AI taking the jobs, but that just isn't the case. One interesting statistic is the job report was just out, and about 10% of 16 to 24-year-olds are out of work. Everybody's like, alarm bells, the sky is falling. Well, that's actually lower than the 30-year average. So while it's tough out there, there is still, there are still times where it was much, much, much worse.
Now, what practical steps can employers take to better manage, train, and retrain Gen Z workers, given the challenges your study highlights?
I think one thing is that in the job interviews, I have heard story after story where human beings show up to those traditional jobs at restaurants, at retails, at movie theaters. There's a job sign on the wall that says now hiring. A person comes in with a resume in hand and they say, go apply online. And they end up in the vacuous black hole of online applications. So I do think for companies out there listening, maybe relook at those policies and find out how you can, when people show up in person, to actually talk to them. The other thing that I would actually advise is on those job interviews for the online applications or in person is just ask them about those first jobs. Don't give them that false hope though. They want to be talk honestly to them. So there's just so many things about it. I will say one thing, Veronica, is in that prepared, confident, capable 16, those that have a Christian faith are much more likely to be confident and capable. And so there is an opportunity to come back to their faith, and it gives them that confidence to move forward instead of being afraid to start. So there's some real positive story there.
So if you are part of Gen Z, is this a wake-up call? And what should young people do to help shape their professional development?
The one thing I would say is maybe stop being so picky about jobs. I think Gen Z, will say, you can do anything, you can do anything. Well, I think we need to stop saying be so picky about their jobs. Get those first experiences. If you're in high school, if you have a child that's in high school, get them a first job. Those first experiences have correlation to higher job satisfaction later, higher income, and even more likely to be married. So for Gen Z, just keep at it, and no matter what that job is, just get that first job for those life skills.
Lisa Miller, consumer marketing expert and founder of Lisa Miller Associates. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Veronica.
Up next on EWTN News Nightly, Rally for the Rosary. Preparations are nearly complete for a day of prayer and pilgrimage in the nation's capital. We speak with the organizers. Plus, Jubilee milestone. The Vatican marks a major event with a U.S. Supreme Court justice in attendance. The Vatican just finished the 25th major event of the Jubilee year. This one featured remarks by Pope Leo and an appearance by a Supreme Court justice. EWTN Vatican journalist Benedict Sedegren has more.
La virtù della giustizia, in particolare,
love justice and avoid evil is one of the Bible's timeless appeals. But Pope Leo reminds us that justice is not only about respect for the law, but also about respect for the dignity of the person. Speaking to thousands of civil legal professionals gathered in St. Peter's Square for the Jubilee of Justice, the Holy Father reflected on the virtue, its role, demands, how it ought to be lived, and how Christians are called to a higher form of it.
La giustizia evangelica, quindi,
evangelical justice, therefore, does not take away from human justice, but challenges and refines it. It prompts human justice to go ever further, impelling it towards the pursuit of reconciliation. Evil, in fact, must not only be punished, but also repaired.
irreprensibile.
Pope Leo, who holds a doctorate in canon law, stressed that working for true justice is a demanding task, but not impossible for those committed to it. Lawyers, court officials, canon lawyers, law professors, and judges from about 100 countries, including around 50 from the United States, listen closely to his guidance.
This Jubilee year provides us an opportunity to really reflect on how we, including the legal profession, can do a better job of protecting the dignity of the human person, of providing care for the sick and the vulnerable, for looking out for those who are in prison, and those who are in need of help.
The Justice and I were born the same.
On the occasion of the Jubilee, U.S. Supreme Court Justice Samuel Alito Jr. even sat down for a public conversation in the Vatican with a judge on the Roman Rota, a Vatican court, to speak about faith, hope, and mercy. Mercy, Justice Alito said, should be built into laws as they are drafted and adopted, and it is entirely proper and advisable for a judge to exercise it when he can, but that it is not always possible.
Completely reconciling mercy with justice is probably impossible. I think only God can do that. Justice is what everybody has a right to. It is what they are due. Mercy is something that we don't necessarily merit.
About 30 attorneys affiliated with the Catholic Bar Association also attended the Jubilee. After days of prayer, community, and conversation, they shared that they will return home more determined than ever to let their faith guide every aspect of their legal practice.
I hope that when I sit down at my desk next Friday and I turn on my computer and I pick up the phone and talk to my clients, talk to my opponents, that my experience here from tomorrow and through this weekend will be with me, and that it will check me where I'm tempted to go too far, but that it will also inspire me to seek the good and in all things to work for justice.
In Rome, Benedikt Cedergren for EWTN News Nightly.
Final touches are being made for a full-day event later this month dedicated to the Rosary. The third annual Dominican Rosary Pilgrimage is set for September 27th at the Basilica of the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception in Washington, D.C. The full-day event features lectures, adoration, a rosary procession, and Mass. The day ends at 7 p.m. with a concert from the Hillbilly Thomists. The event is free and open to the public. We recently spoke with one of the event organizers. For more, we turn to Father Andrew Hofer, author and spokesman for the Dominican Rosary Pilgrimage. Father Andrew, thank you so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Veronica.
So first, tell us, how did this event come to be?
Well, the Dominicans have a long-time association with Our Lady's Rosary. And so Our Lady especially wants the Dominicans to pray the Rosary and to preach the Rosary fervently. So this Saturday, September 27th, we will have the Dominican Rosary Pilgrimage, and it's the third annual Dominican Rosary Pilgrimage here in Washington, D.C.
Now, it looks like an incredible lineup. Can you tell us a little bit more about some of the activities?
Yes. So it'll be at the National Shrine of the Immaculate Conception, and the day will begin at 10 o'clock in the morning, and we will have conferences preached by Father Austin Lickey. We'll have the Rosary being prayed. We'll have a procession. We'll have the Eucharistic adoration. We'll have time for the confessions, for other types of prayer. We'll have book signing by various Dominican authors, and we'll have the day conclude with Mass at 4:30 in the upper church of the shrine, and then later in the evening we'll even have the Hillbilly Thomists perform outside.
That's really exciting. We also saw some offerings for Mass in Spanish in the crypt.
Yes, so downstairs in the crypt we'll have the liturgy and preaching in Spanish.
Now let's talk a little bit about, maybe for some viewers who aren't praying the Rosary on a daily basis, can you talk a little bit about how important that might be?
Oh, it is. So this is where the Rosary is a special way of being united to the mysteries of the life of Christ. So in the Rosary, we meditate upon the joys, lights, sorrows, and glories of our Savior. And we do this in union with his mother, the Blessed Virgin Mary. So this is where I highly encourage that people pray the Rosary every day. And then if you don't have time for, say, the full 5 decades of the Rosary, to pray just 1 decade of the Rosary. And if you don't even have time for 1 decade of the Rosary, how about praying 1 Hail Mary slowly?
There we go. Starting off slow, but
yes,
you know, getting to the main event there. Now, for people who are interested for the third annual Dominican Rosary Pilgrimage, where can they go for more information?
Well, we have a website dedicated to that, so Dominican Rosary Pilgrimage, and that would be really good for people to see all the different kinds of offering.
Father Andrew Hofer, author and spokesman for the Dominican Rosary Pilgrimage, thank you so much for your time today.
You're welcome, Veronica. Thank you.
Pope Leo reminds the faithful that everything in our lives comes from God, and we should use those things in a responsible manner.
Deve pensare a che cosa fare per il suo futuro.
In his Sunday address, the Holy Father reflected on the parable of the unjust steward, reminding the faithful that everything we possess, including our lives and material goods, are gifts from God. Instead of selfish accumulation, Pope Leo urges us to use those gifts to foster friendship with God and others. Today is the feast day of St. Thomas of Villanova. Thomas was born in Spain in the 15th century. He joined the Augustinians and became prior and provincial. He was then made Archbishop of Valencia, which he accepted reluctantly. As bishop, he would give meals, wine, and money to hundreds of people who would show up at his door every morning. Today, one of his relics is in the pectoral cross worn by Pope Leo XIV, also an Augustinian. St. Thomas of Villanova, pray for us. We thank you for watching tonight. Remember, you can follow us on social media, Facebook, X, and Instagram at EWTN News Nightly. I'm Veronica Dudo. Good night and God bless.